Alright guys, last section of the chapter, section 2.8, Operations on Functions, Day 2. Best part about this lesson is I want to skip this warm-up. We'll talk about it in class. I want to go right down to composite functions. And what this is actually putting a function inside of a function. So there's a new notation. Notice like these symbols. There's like an open circle. That does not mean multiply. It's a symbol that means something. And you'll see them kind of all over the place. It's an open circle, and sometimes people abbreviate this as fog because it looks like an O, and goff because it looks like an O. But so sometimes if you hear people like referring to that, that's what they're talking about, is what's called composite functions or function composition. So here's what this symbol means. You're given two different equations, an f function and a g function, and what example A is wanting us to do is to find f of g of 2. So basically the g of 2 is what you do first. So basically what that means is you take your 2, you plug it into the g, and then whatever is that number is what you're going to plug into f. So it's like doing two different kind of t-charts, I guess, if you will. You take the 2 and plug it into the g equation, and when you do that up here, negative 2 plus 3 gives you 1. And then you're actually taking the 1 and plugging it into the f. So that answer gets plugged into the f equation. So then when you do f of 1, you get negative 1. Okay, so kind of weird. You start by plugging in the number to the g, aka the letter that it's closest to, the g of 2. That means you just plug in 2 to the g, and you get an answer of 1. And so then you take that answer of 1, plug it into the f. Okay, so kind of confusing, a little bit tricky, totally different symbols, new operations. Let's try this one. This is f of g of x. In this case, they didn't give us a number. That just means take the entire g of x equation, which is this, take all of that stuff, and plug it into the f. So as it's written right here, the g of x is on the inside of the f equation. That means that all of this stuff goes inside of f. So if you're given a number, which is different, the number for letter A, that means that we just took the number, plugged it into g, got a different number, plugged it into f. In this case, you're not given a number. That just means take g of x, which is right here, it's this equation, and plug it inside f. So sometimes what I like to do, and what you'll maybe see in my answer keys and stuff, is I take the f equation and I put a big space where the x is. So this is the f equation. And instead of x, I'm actually putting the entire g of x function in there. And the g of x function is negative x plus 3. And then all you have to do here is combine like terms. So when I distribute my 2, I get negative 2x plus 6 and then minus 3. And I just have to combine my like terms here. So negative 2x plus 3. So another kind of hint for you, if you're given a number to plug in, your answer is going to be a number. If you're given an x to plug in, that means just leave x in your answer. Okay, so a little bit of a difference between those two. Let's try a couple more. A little bit of a tricky concept here. We've got two new equations. We have an f and we have a g, and this first one is telling me to do f of g of x. So this one you're not given a number to plug in. That means just take just leave x in your equation. So I'm going to take g of x, which is all of this stuff, and plug it into the f function. So in this case, the g of x is on the inside of the f, which means all of this goes inside here. So again, my trick is to take the f equation and write a big space where the x is. And then inside that space is what all of this goes. So negative x squared plus 4x plus 3. And yeah, I have a little bit of cleaning up to do. We'll distribute the 5. 20x, 15 plus 3. Just combine like terms. And this is a lot like yesterday's lesson, where do you have to factor or like do anything after this? No, just combine like terms and then you're finished. So notice how, again, we weren't given a number to plug in the original equation. That means we're going to have x's in our answer. Okay, let's try the second one. This one is goff of x. So this one is the same two equations, except it means take g and plug f of x inside of it. So the order of the letters does matter. Notice the difference between this problem and how we wrote it, and this problem and how we wrote it. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to take our f of x equation. See how f of x is on the inside of g? That means I'm going to take all the f of x stuff and plug it in anywhere I see an x into the g equation. So again, if I want to leave a big space in the g where the x is supposed to go, so I have negative parentheses squared plus 4 parentheses plus 3. That's my g equation. And the f of x has to go on the inside of the g. So in here and in here is where I'm writing my f of x equation. So that is 5x plus 3 and 5x plus 3. So if there's multiple x's in the equation, that just means you plug in the function for every single x in there. So you're just putting a big space where there's an x and sliding the g of x equation in there, or vice versa. Okay, so for this one, yeah, we have some cleaning up to do. I'm going to FOIL first, and then I'm going to distribute my negative sign. So when we FOIL, we get 30x. When I distribute my 4, make sure I FOILed that right, 25, 30 times 2, and 9. So distribute my negative sign now, and then I'll combine like terms. Now all I have to do is combine like terms. I distributed the negative, so I end up with negative 25x squared. When I combine my x terms, I just get negative 10x. And when I combine my whole numbers, my negative 9, my positive 12, my positive 3, I think that gives me positive 6. Okay, so that is example number 2, very similar. Let's talk about number 3. So here again, we know that this new symbol, this new notation means to find f of g of x. And the way this is written, the g of x is going to go on the inside of the f function. So all of this stuff is going to go on the inside of the f right here. So I'm just going to put a big space where the x is inside the f equation. And what goes in that space is all of this g of x stuff. So 8x squared minus 6. And really the only thing I can do here to combine my like terms is add my negative 6 and my 2. So that's the square root's going to stay. I have 8x squared minus 4. No, you don't have to factor or take anything out. It's not necessary. You just combine your like terms and you're finished. And again, just to reiterate, this problem started with an x in it as opposed to having a number, and therefore we're going to have an x in our answer. And the last one, again, this one's backwards, but what this means is, if I zoom out, this means g of f of x. So in this case, the f of x, the square root, is going to go on the inside of the g equation right here for x. So I'm taking this square root, the f of x, and putting it inside the g equation. Instead of an x, I'm writing that square root. So I'm going to put a big space in the g equation. And inside that big space is going to go the square root. So this is square root x plus 2. And we for sure can simplify some of this. The square and the square root cancel. So we just get x plus 2, and the 8 needs to distribute into it. That gives you 8x plus 16 minus 6, which gives you 8x plus 10 when you combine your like terms. Okay, so notice how the two, if you reverse like the fog and the goff, these are not the same. They're actually two totally different answers. Keep that in mind. Okay, and then last section here is it gives you a bunch of t-charts, which is kind of crazy. But again, all you need to know is what this notation means, and then how to find the numbers in the t-chart. So notice, what is the difference between the t-charts? This is f of x, this is g of x. So it's two different equations, which obviously give you two different t-charts. So what this notation for letter A means is find f of g of 3. So what I'm doing first is finding g of 3. So where up here can I find g of 3? So remember that that means that the 3 is the x value, and I'm looking at the g-t chart first. So here's my g-t chart, and when x equals 3, I get a value of 1. So I have to find the 3, answer is 1. That's the first part. And where did I get that 1 from? Because it's told me to go g of 3. Here's g, here's 3, answer is 1. So I'm plugging that 1 in here. And then whatever that answer is, remember, that 1 gets plugged into the f of x. So here's f of 1, the answer is 5. So it kind of like bounces you around the t-charts and tries to tell you, like, first go here, then go there. It's like following a map, following directions. You just need to know what the symbol is. Letter B is f of g of 15. That tells you to start at g of 15. So find the x value of 15. What is the g answer? So here's the g. X value of 15 takes me to 11. So I'm doing f of 11. So now that answer, the 11, gets plugged into the f function. Here's 11 for the f. That answer is 12. So it kind of bounces you around. And then letter C is reversed again, so that means g of f of 11. So that means to start at f of 11. So start on the ft chart, which is this one, at x equals 11, that answer is 12. So then in the g, what I'm doing is plugging in 12. Where did the 12 come from again? So I took f of 11. Here's f of 11. That answer is 12. Now it's telling me to do g of 12. So find that answer on the g-t chart. That answer is 7. Very confusing kind of situation, but it's just a navigation tool to get around a couple t-charts. And other than that, you guys, that's the end of the chapter. Bring your questions to class tomorrow. We're going to do a lot of practice, all right? Have a good night.